everyone, and welcome to the Storm Report. I'm Ron Lighthall alongside Terry Spain. Terry, welcome.
Hey, I'm glad to be back, man. Game one is down, man.
Game one is down. Boy, we had a great time over the weekend. What an experience. And bravo to all of the crew and the coaches and all the staff, both at Inter and Co Stadium and with the Orlando Storm, because they pulled off what could have been a chaotic event flawlessly. So bravo to them and their team. The field looked great. Concessions were all 100% operable. It was just an amazing experience.
Yeah, you were definitely complimenting that field because they did an amazing job just keeping it, up to par. It's a lot of pressure when you have your first game. Everyone's going to be there. The first game is when a lot of people usually critique things. So it was good to see that, they're going to take that feedback that they gotten and apply it to the next week.
A little over 11,000 people. I think had it not been for some of the weather delays, I think we would have had a little bit better bump. This weekend, they're really making a push. You talked to Anthony Beck a couple times this week,
Yeah.
Immediately after the game. And then, of course, yesterday you were out at the launch site talking to Coach Anthony Beck. Tell us a little bit about his take on it and his push for bring one friend mentality.
Yeah, I think that's a great mentality to have. But one of the things that he mentioned, he said he was fully aware that first game was a Sunday, and a lot of the kids had to go to school the next day, maybe. So he understood that. But he said this game is on a Saturday. It's 8 o'clock. It's a great time to bring family out. And he mentioned not only Mount Dora and Almonte Springs and some of these areas that are in Orlando, but he also mentioned the Space Coast because he knows how important the Space Coast is. In particular, his running back is from the Space Coast. So he's definitely been pushing for fans to come out, and they should come out. This is a professional grade football. We know the Jacksonville Jaguars got the nod to come here.
That is right.
But this is an opportunity to see what professional football looks like.
And you talk about Brevard's own Jay Sean Corbin. Boy, he had a showing, man.
Yes, he did.
He turned out. He'll go down in history as the very first score, the first touchdown in the in history. So let's talk a little bit about the game because it was something we didn't expect. And it was the question I asked to Anthony Beck during the press conference was the expectation, the buildup, the anticipation, and they come out. Orlando kicks off to the Aviators, and it's an instant turnover. So it's all, it was all Orlando after that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, when that turnover happened, the crowd erupted. And it was good to see because how often do you get an opportunity to see that when you have the opening kickoff and the team turns the ball over in your first game ever played as an expansion team and all these things were going your way? So it was exciting to see that, that they started off from the ground, hitting the ground running, and they never looked back.
The hype team did a great job for that build-up pre-game. You and I were there several hours before watching the setup. And again, what a crazy, the television technology was just amazing. I was peeking in every booth, every room.
You sure was.
All the equipment. They had the sky cam watching that operate. But we had some great opportunities. All the bigwigs were there from the league. And Terry, you and I, it was amazing. We were able to have actual conversations with them in a casual setting. And of course, your relationship with Danny Garcia, helped that, of course. But we ran into her in the concourse and, a little bit of dialogue. So tell us about that dialogue because they were amped, they were hyped, and they love Orlando.
Yeah, and Danny's been back in the UFL ever since she's been a part of it. And one of the things, she's probably one of the most influential owners that they have there with Mike Repole as well. But she's all in, and she had an opportunity. That one of the things that people didn't know is that was actually her anniversary, and she was there to spend her wedding anniversary alongside her husband.
Yeah,
and they went to every game that the UFL had week one. So that goes to show you how invested she is in the game.
I tell you, it was just incredible people, down to earth, approachable, full-on conversations. On the sideline prior to the game, I got to talk to Mike Repole.
Yeah, that's like your new best friend. You
guys
were locked in.
But Mike is such a dynamic guy. His personality is so perfect for a league like this. A guy with a dream, a guy with the financial backing to make sure that the league has success. And he was there with his family. His daughter was there, and
Yeah.
Joy, she was more excited about DJ
Oh yeah,
Khaled
she was.
than the game itself. But Mike and I did have a real casual conversation.
Yeah,
We
you guys
talked
did.
about the success and his leadership, and I complimented on him and said, he is, in my honest opinion, the blueprint for future ownership. I mean, ownerships have to have that dynamic and be a bridge between the loyalty of the fans and the success of the league.
Yeah, you said that from day one. When and I never forget when you mentioned that, and you were like, he is all over the place. He's doing a lot of stuff for the UFL, and that's what you need. So that was a good call on that one.
We had a great time at Tom's Watch Bar. We'll be back there this weekend.
Yeah.
We'll be there Saturday. We'll actually be doing our pregame prior to the game.
Yeah.
So we're one trip to Orlando this week.
one trip.
But we had such a great time. So they hosted us fantastically, and I'm really looking forward to going back this weekend for our pregame. And of course, we'll have those what to expect with the Kings, because the Kings, they're 0-1, but they're no joke.
No, they should have won that game. And I'll tell you what, their defense is. I have an opportunity. I know one of the young men that plays for the Kings, and their defense, and that has a lot of professional NFL talent that has played in the NFL that's on that defense.
Yeah, they have a great product, a scary product.
Yes.
They're going to be ones that say, hey, they look at that loss, but man, are they going to be motivated? And this week they've made a lot of changes, a lot of movement going on, and some pickups this week for the Kings. So they did do some personnel changes.
Yeah.
The same thing with Orlando. They went back and reevaluated, but coaches this week are going to have game film to look at that they didn't have.
Yeah, and that's one of the advantages of having game film. You get to look at what this person's used to doing, in particular with quarterbacks. They're going to have a lot of focus on the quarterbacks for both teams, and you get a feel for who's their premier players. I expect that that Louisville is going to try to stop the run, because the Orlando Storm had a good opportunity to run the ball. 66 yards from Jason Corbin, or 60+ yards and 2 touchdowns. They're going to try to limit that even more. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of things that both teams are going to have opportunity to look at.
One of the highlights of our night was actually during the press conference when we got to see Elijah Badger, and Chris Rowland talking about the blunder, the block in the back, that called back Elijah Badger touchdown, and inevitably on that scoring drive, Chris Rowland scored, and our guy Manny, boy, I tell you, he got some. He had the best seat in the house for that touchdown, man.
Yeah, Manny, he's an overnight celebrity. He was right there. And one of the things that I noticed about Manny, he did not flinch. Most people would have just froze up because a player was coming to them and in that speed.
Right.
He stood right there and got that footage, and that's why he's there.
That's it, man. Our man in the trenches, and that footage actually got picked up yesterday by the actual Orlando Storm.
Yeah.
And they wanted to distribute it as well. It was just a great shot, and we'll have that for you here. For our radio listeners, you're gonna have to visit us on our YouTube page to see it. But you have to admit that game was electric. It was exciting. The crowd never waned right up to halftime when DJ Khaled played, and then it just continued on thereafter. But on our way back up to the press box, DJ Khaled, we got our picture taken with our ball blingy here.
Yeah.
And full-on celebrity, this little football man. Everybody wanted to see him, touch him, hold him, and get their picture taken with him.
Yeah, and that's the whole purpose of it as well. And DJ Khaled, he even said, like, wow, I like this, So if he got this, we got the stamp of approval from him, as we're definitely headed in the right direction. So yeah, blingy is all over the place, and like you said, a lot of people are looking forward to seeing.
We want to thank our sponsors that make all of this possible. We're going to start with Zoa. Brandon was out there. And
full effect.
Yeah, and so Brandon's been great to us, hooking us up with the product here and making sure our fans, our followers, when we do events, when we're out and about, we can put a little energy. And I tell you and I had a long day on Sunday, man, and we nelot that on the way home.
Yeah,
man. It was the dark at night and the empty roads on the way home. So that was a lot of fun. And when we were out there at the Fan Fest, I made contact with Junkless,
the official
protein bar and granola bar of the UFL. We're gonna get some product from them sent in, so we'll be able to have that for our fan packs. And we want to thank Toyota of Melbourne for stepping up. They're part of our giveaway. We're going to announce our winner here just shortly.
Yeah.
So stick with us. But and we also want to thank Robin Fisher.
Yes.
You know, he was the one who really anchored us and got this all started with his first sponsorship without hesitation, without delay. He said, you know, your relationship with him, he said, Terry, I'm in. The Orlando Storm are going to be hosting the Kings consecutively.
Yes.
So they're at Orlando this weekend, and then Orlando's on the road at Louisville the following weekend. A lot of sports you play back to back to back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, baseball, hockey. You know, as you travel and you put the schedules together. In this instance, you know, tell me what dynamic you think that's going to do for the game of football. We don't see it in the NFL unless it's a playoff. You know, it's your final game, and you see them again the following week. But it's hard to beat a team twice, let alone back to back in a week.
Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of footage though. So for this week, when Orlando plays Louisville, they're already gonna be preparing for the next week as well, because they're gonna go to their home turf, like you mentioned before. So it is kind of difficult, but you can actually learn from them and learn from these different mistakes that you have. You're probably gonna have sets of plays that you're not gonna be able to run because they're gonna be on the lookout for those plays that burnt them the last game or what have you. So those back-to-back games is going to really show how the coaching staff and what coaching means to this game of football. So we'll be able to see that because they play the DC Defenders the same exact way like that. So I'm excited to see that, and hopefully they can get the 2 wins back to back on the same team. But you're right, it is hard to beat a team twice.
Orlando fans need to turn out.
They have to.
This past weekend, the Louisville Kings had the highest outdoor attendance.
Yes.
And Orlando was third with 11, just under 11-2. And that 11-2 was loud, but we need 22.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is, and this is what Coach Beck mentioned, I informed him there is a rocket launch on that same day of the game. Go to the rocket launch and then come on over and let's launch these Storms out to a win. You know, you have to do that because we wanted a professional team. The excitement that we talked about that when it was announced that the Jaguars were in town, had that same excitement for the Orlando Storm. This is actually your team and it's named Orlando.
Right. And I tell you, again, the ticket prices, junklessfoods.com, get your tickets 50% off. And again, the atmosphere is electric. Get in line, be one of the first 5,000. You get that clear tote bag and all, you know, the different swag. And we can't express enough what it's like to be there in the stadium. We need you loud, and you know, Terry and I will sacrifice our parking for a bigger crowd.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the loudest I heard that crowd was during the opening kickoff and we got the turnover. That was probably the loudest I've heard that crowd that entire night. But you got to imagine that doesn't happen often when a team comes out and get the ball and they turn it over immediately. So that crowd was roaring. We got to bring that same energy to help these Storms win.
And we're doing our part. We're giving away tickets. Ray Simmons is this week's winner, courtesy of Toyota of Melbourne. We want to thank Chris Hines and Kenny Lopez and all their entire staff and crew out there at the Toyota of Melbourne. And we want to thank Robin Fisher with State Farm, who makes our tickets available as well. And, you know, we're going to have Blingy. If you see Terry and I out there walking around, you know, Blingy's got his own little backpack, so he travels with us. And, you know, stop us.
Yeah.
You know, Terry, I got to tell you, you know, I'm gonna call you out on this. Your call with Coach Beck, man, he called you out for being the best dressed person in media. And I got to tell you, man, I was wearing my good stuff too, man. But I tell you, you outshine me, man. You outshine me.
Yeah, I got to thank Spades and Fort Myers. They're the ones that keep me looking good. Spades. They're out in Edison Mall. So if anybody's ever in Edison Mall and in Fort Myers, you have to go visit Spades because they do a tremendous job with keeping me looking good.
And I got to tell you, man, you and I were the two best dressed. you a little notch above. I was a little more hot, you know, casual. And, you know, I Monday morning, I was online. I was ordering, you know, new wardrobe pieces because it was hot.
It was.
And I was, I've lived in Florida long enough that I should know that. But I tell you, I bought some new golf related apparel,
yeah, you
so
were
it's
all
going to be
set.
much lighter and much more breathable. But hey, congratulations on that,
Oh
though, man.
man,
So
oh.
one of the best looking, best dressed, man. So that's great. And I got to tell you, man, I am so proud to work with you, and your professionalism is just something special to me. You're a big fish in a small market here in Brevard, but the meet and greets and the stuff like that. I had a great time. You have really never done anything on this professional level. It's always been like local high school.
Yes.
I kind of stick to the technical side, and
Yeah.
you're more on the statistical and broadcast side. But
congratulations to Ray Simmons again for our ticket. He's our ticket winner. And enjoy the game. Bring some other people, get people excited about it. But this is a great opportunity for anybody to come out to this stadium. Beautiful stadium, as you mentioned before. Come on out, support this team. Tickets are really cheap, very inexpensive. And just have a good time and enjoy it. And make sure you wear either your purple or your orange. And then they're going to be giving giveaways as well throughout some of these themes. So just be ready for that also. Come on out and enjoy. And if you see us, come on up and take a picture with Blinging.
thanks, Terry.